coffee mug. We got that on the site for you. So check that out when you get a chance. Giving it just a quick second for people to hop on and tune in to this Tune In Tuesday with your boy Matt Lee, and continuing to grow the message, the topics that will continue to help you to just build and excel and tap into excellence, tap into your brilliance, tap into really the truth about you. And that's really what I always want to bring it back to. I always want to be a reminder and an echoer of the truth, because again, in this world we live in, it's so easy. It's so easy to get kind of sideswiped with chaos and clutter, especially within the mind, within the heart. And so today's topic is nothing short of beautiful, and just a reminder to take you back to the truth about you and I. So giving it a few moments here, and I want to go ahead and hop in today's topic of what we are expanding on and really just getting to really process on. And so I wanted to kind of ask you a question and see what your answer may be. So I want you to just let me know in the comments, all right? Tell me what your answer is, okay? So the most valuable thing, one of the most valuable things I would say, okay, in the world right now, I'll give you some already answers that it's not, right? So the most valuable thing in this world right now, it isn't money, it isn't fame, and it isn't power. What is it? Give you a couple moments, okay? One of the most valuable things right now in this world that we have, and it's not money, it's not the fame, it's not power. I wouldn't even say it's time. I'm gonna let you know right now. What would your answer be, okay? What would your answer be to that? If you throw it in the comments, let's see. And I wanted you to take a guess at that, because just to give you some more clues to this is exactly the very thing that you have, and businesses fight for it. Right now, I'm fighting for it. And if I have it, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to have that right now. Apps are designed around this very thing I'm talking about. Okay, brands are built around it completely, and people are competing for it every single day, just like I am right now in your day, this live, finding you right where you're at. I'm competing, and I really want it, and I'm honored if I have it. Okay, so any answers here? I will see. Okay, and so I see some coming in. So I want to just hop in because I only have so much time here to give you. I don't want to keep you too long, but the answer I'm looking for, a lot of beautiful answers, is your attention. One of the most valuable things that you have, if not the most powerful thing that you have, okay? And I'm going to intertwine those two words, your focus, your attention, okay? We could even throw in there your vision, okay? That's the most powerful thing you have. And again, because every single day, every moment of your day, there's something fighting for your attention, something fighting for your focus, all right? From your phone to your fears, to the worries that come with fears, to the anxiety of fears, right? Your past, your mistakes. And a lot of times we get caught up in even people's opinion about us, and that steals our attention, right? So that this is the most powerful thing that we have. And that's why I really wanted to talk about that, because getting out of the clutter of what it looks like to just let your focus, let your attention just kind of waver and just kind of be lost is really what is separating so many people from just living an average life, being an average individual, where they're going. And so most people don't realize this, okay? This is why I'm doing a deep dive on this today. What you focus on, you become, okay? What you focus on, you become. In the religious kind of upbringing, going to church, doing all that, one of the things I heard, and that's so kind of like monumental into this idea of who God is, realizing that what you worship, you become. And some of us, we don't realize, we start to, just because of so much attention that we put on our problems, comparing ourselves to others, things like that, we start worshiping this idea of who we could be or who we're not. And again, what you focus on, you become. And this is something that I want to break down for you to see that you are the commander of what you're focused on. This is the intentionality of you directing and commanding where your focus is going, where you're placing your attention. Okay, 80% of the day, 80% of your life, you're thinking about something primarily, and my question is, all right, and the focus here is being, what is that? So this is important because your attention, right, it decides your direction. Where you're placing your attention is really dictating and deciding the direction you're moving, whether that be to the next level, whether that be kind of in a stagnant place in life, kind of just existing, kind of just going with, the day-to-day, moment by moment, just kind of cruising autopilot, right? But as you accelerate those thoughts, as you are allowing yourself to elevate and put your attention on something higher, something bigger, something brighter, your attention is really deciding the direction you're moving in. So whatever has your attention is 1,000% shaping who you're becoming. And so I want to break this down into 3 quick points for you, and really just bring it all back into, again, where your focus goes, that's what grows. Okay, if you're taking notes, that's really, I would say, the theme, the title of what today's Tune In Tuesday is all about. Where your focus goes, that's what grows. So my first point is, your focus isn't neutral. Okay, it doesn't have this just weightless, effortless, thoughtless, just energy that doesn't affect or impact anything. In fact, your attention, all right, your focus is your power. Again, because what you focus on, you're becoming. And that's going to be my third point, which I break down even more so for you, right? But the scriptures remind us in Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And so you are constantly what you think about every single day, all day long. Whatever those primary thoughts are. And some of us, we could really, if you think about it, where does your mind really exist? Do you go quick to the fear, the assumption, the worry side of things when you look into the world and how we've progressed, but where we're at today as a society? Is it more fear related? Is it something that's more inspiring? Is it something that with hope? Is it something that you have joy for what could be, even when you look into our world and you see what's missing? And this gives you an indicator of really where your focus is on, what your beliefs are, and where that's driving you to kind of place your attention. And so I'm going to break down how that happens even more so. And so with Allergic to Average, we talk primarily about 2 mindsets, right? One mindset is primarily dominated by fear. That's the average, right? That's a lot easier because it's just more familiar to us. And the other mindset is primarily one that we continue to grow within a love-based thinking, right? And so I've broken those down, written a curriculum, A16 Basics, right? So that's a curriculum using every letter of Allergic to Average and really helping individuals to shift out of the default mindset into a designed mindset, okay? Getting out of default, getting out of average, getting out of what has been, what you knew growing up, and getting into a designed way of thinking. And so just real quick, some breakdowns on that. What does that look like? What the default mindset is more, that was your inherited mindset. That's kind of what you understood, what you believed, how you think from your upbringing, from parents, aunts, uncles, teachers, school, friends. The default mindset is it's just automatic, right? And with it being more automatic, it's unchallenged. It hasn't had those upgrades. It hasn't had you really processing, is this something that serves me? Is this something that is still real and true? Or is this just something that I inherited and what I believed from my upbringing, right? Or what I kind of took on from the world's understanding. And so the designed mindset, okay, that is a intentional mindset. That's one that's doing things deliberately, deciding on purpose how you will process and really perceive things, what your focus and your attention is going to be set on, regardless of what things look like around you, right? It's trained, it's chosen, right? It's by choice that you start to get into a designed mindset. And so Allergic to Average, that just, it constantly brings us back to being an individual that refuses to live on default. Right? Going back to just what average has been and what it's looked like, the Allergic to Average, you as an individual, it takes you back to a place where you refuse to just be on autopilot, like the average person, right? And that's important because when you can design the way that you think, you can design the way that you live, because everything follows your thought process. Everything follows your beliefs. It follows your strongest thoughts. It's actually your strongest thoughts are moving you in a certain direction. Okay. Again, your attention decides your direction. And so it's very, very, very critical that we are very intentional on choosing and training the thoughts that we're cultivating, that we're carrying within us moment by moment, day by day, no matter what is going on around us. And so my second point is your brain has an algorithm, right? It works just like an algorithm. So on social media, if you're unfamiliar with what an algorithm is, this is how the billions of us on social media get treated, as if these things that we're seeing from other people's stories and their posts, why we see what we see, why we see more of what we like, what's kind of specialized to our desires and our wants from social media. And so if you like humor, you like videos that give you laughs and pranks and stuff like that, just like social media, right? What you watch, it's going to show up more. The algorithm goes back and it says, oh, this person has spent more time watching these types of videos. They like this kind of message. They like this type of topic, whatever it may be. When you click certain things, you like it. Even for specific people's profiles, you're going to see more of their stuff, right? And so what you focus on grows, and your mind is the exact same, right? The RAS of the brain, this is the brilliance of you I'm talking about. This is what helps us to actually, it works as an algorithm. In fact, it is the OG original algorithm before there was ever one invented or developed on social media. And so, the reticular activating system, again, the RAS, is the brain's filter, and it decides what you'll notice and what you'll ignore, right? And it looks for what you tell it matters. What you say matters by your thoughts, primarily your beliefs, and what your perspective is, where your attention is going. It reminds you and it tells your brain what to see, what to notice, and what to ignore, what's not important, right? And this goes back to that, kind of example of when you have a pair of shoes that you really haven't seen that you like, and then all of a sudden you start noticing other people's pairs of shoes, the same kind, maybe. Same thing with driving a car, right? You get a certain car, and all of a sudden you start noticing everybody else's, more and more of those same types of cars, even maybe same types of colors all around you. And so what you're putting your attention on, what you're putting your focus on, and another way of saying this is your attention is training your brain. By you saying this is important, by you putting your focus, and sometimes this is a rehearsal, right? Within your mental activity, because we naturally want to go to the negative. We naturally start to focus on, it's natural for us to see what's wrong, what's not going right, what's not working. And we feel like if we stress over that, if we just examine that with some anxiety, maybe things will change. And that's the default. That's the natural. That's kind of where we've all come from. But this is critical for us to go back to a place in dictating and deciding with deliberance where we're going to go with our focus and our attention. Okay, because if you start to focus on failure, if you're somebody that is going back to fear and letting that dominate your mindset, if you're somebody that if you're going back to comparison, where you could be or where you should be versus how somebody else's story is playing out where they're at, your brain finds more of that. Okay. David Baer states, your brain is a goal achieving machine. And this is part of our mechanisms and our processes of survival. It wants to find, what we tell it is true, or what we dictate would be the actual reality of what's going on. And so again, I'll go back to this, but you're the commander and you're the creator for the space that actually creates this mental activity and where you're going to be focusing, what you're going to be seeing more of. And so it's simple, but it's not simple, right? It's simple to do, simple not to do. And a lot of times we feel like because it's so simple, we don't see the need for it. But where you're actually putting your thoughts and your focus on is your brain is actually searching and finding more evidence of that to be real and true for you. Okay, so if you focus on more things that are anchored in love, if you're focused on more of the positivity, if you're focused on the love of God and the divine one, the anointed one coming back and showing you over and over again the truth of that, you're going to find more of that. You're going to see more of that. Your brain highlights those things. That, again, this is the brilliance of you, right? And so this is critical. And the scripture reminds us of this. Philippians 4:8, I'm going to read this to you. It gives us this reminder of keep your thoughts continually fixed on, okay? Keep your thoughts continually fixed on, okay? I want you to remember, in other versions, it breaks it down and says, meditate on this, dwell upon this, all right? So this is the cheat code right here. This is how we bypass so much of the average thinking for us and that we see happening around us. But back in Philippians 4:8, it says, keep your mind continually fixed on all that is authentic, all that is real, all that is honorable, all that is admirable, the beautiful and respectful, okay, the pure, the holy, the merciful, the kind. Excuse me. And fasten your thoughts on every glorious work of God, praising him always. Okay, so keeping this is our homework, right? This is our responsibility. This is what we are charged to do as allergic to average individuals, and growing that, your focus and your attention. Keep your thoughts continuously fixed on things that are authentic, things that are real, right? Things that are actually beautiful, they're true, they're noble, they're admirable. And this is really the game changer in turning the page and continuing to shift and move out of default, average, a low grade of thinking, because when you can focus on these, you can become these things. And this is not fluff. This is not cute. This is just what you got. This is actual truth. And we have this reminder for us to keep our thoughts continuously fixed on these things. And so in the scriptures, it's the actual example of what it looks like to focus on these things, or what are these things we should be focused on? I should say, gives us kind of the blueprint guide of what matters most, right? In Philippians 4:8, it reminds us of that. And so God is literally giving us a template of what to feed our mental algorithm, what we should be feeding that. Because, see, God doesn't just care about what you do. I would say even more so, God cares about what you think about. He cares more about what you think about, because from your thoughts, right, from your beliefs, is actually going to decide the direction you're moving in. So if you have low vibrating thoughts, a low frequency of thought, an average default way of thinking, your life is going to continue to show up in that very way. And so the way that you think, again, Proverbs 23:7, as you think you are. And so this is why being allergic to average goes back to a way of thinking. It's disrupting the patterns of default and average, and you continuing to upgrade what that looks like. So, your thoughts, the reason why this is crucial, because your thoughts become feelings, and those feelings actually start to dictate the actions, and that those actions become your life. And so that's why we have to take control of getting out of the autopilot default way of thinking and actually being intentional about how we're thinking and continuing to upgrade that. And so, I want to move on to point 3, all right, which is kind of where I started at and said most people don't realize that what you focus on, you become. What you focus on, you become. And so, as simple as it sounds, when you actually do the intentional work of focusing on things like kindness, okay, you become kinder. Okay, simple to do, simple not to do, but game changer if you do. Sets you apart. The world sees the difference, you feel the difference, and you experience it. If you focus on things like courage and what that could look like, what that actually embodies being and doing, you focus on courage, you become braver, you become more courageous, right? You focus on things of truth, you become stronger. You become the outlet of truth. You carry that, you embody that. And one of the most important things to focus on, if you focus on love and the attributes of love and all the characteristics of what love is, you become somebody that is loving. You become safer to be around. You become more trusted, right? And so, again, what you focus on, you become. And so, A common confusion for most people is, waiting to do and to have different so that you can feel different, right? If I had more resource or money or assets or friendships or popularity or whatever it may be, then I would feel more appreciated. Then I would feel more confident. But no, you don't wait to feel different, to think different. Okay. That's an average way of thinking. You think different and your life follows that. Okay. So you don't wait to feel different to start thinking different. That's an average thing. Again, you start to think different, tap in and rehearse the new, the upgraded, right? And then your life starts to follow that. And that is so much of the allergic to average understanding in shifting your thoughts, upgrading, and you dictating and deciding to be the commander and the creator of the very mindset, the very life that you're leading, that you're living here. And so focus doesn't, this is such an importance because like I've seen this and have lived this for myself. The focus of what you're putting your attention on and what you're really processing to be true and actually important, it doesn't just change what you see, okay? But more importantly, it does that as well. But more importantly, it changes who you are. It actually changes you from the inside out. So not only do you see different, but then you start to live and become different, right? This is the power of your focus. And so I want to submit to you this idea of, scripture and what Jesus brought. And I wanted to really get you to process and think, about Jesus. I don't feel like he just came to save us from this sin. And this is our one and only battle is just this sin, this war against sin. And, this idea of sin is really you missing the mark. Sin, when sin enters our life, it takes us out of the alignment of who God has created us to be, the full potential of who we were designed to be. And so before we look at these actual physical things, what sin could be, and so much of religion is focused on like, the sin, like the actual things of sin. But I feel like more than ever, me realizing this, I feel like Jesus, he came to save us not only, yes, from sin, but primarily from a sinful way of thinking, right? A distorted way of thinking. Because as you start to talk yourself out and belittle the design and the greatness of who you are, you will naturally, right? Your life will naturally follow, and you will start showing up as an individual who is missing the mark, who is less than, who's not enough. And so this understanding of, I feel like the Bible and the scriptures and Jesus' demonstration of what he brought us was more than anything, a psychological renewing of getting out of a distorted, false, fear-based way of thinking. Okay. And so you hear me talk a lot about, again, I was speaking about the default mind versus the designed mind. So much of that isn't, the default is a fear-based way of thinking. The designed mindset, okay, is a love-based. And so fear-based, it keeps you in, it's separating. It thinks that you're separate from others, that nobody cares about you, that you're not enough, that your life has no impact or value to anybody else, right? It separates us. But love-based thinking, it restores, it renews, right? That's the power of that. Within the designed way of thinking, the love-based way of thinking that we continue to move into, it renews the mind, right? That's why, if you see on the back here, allergic to average, a new way of thinking, because that's what it takes for us to continue to move into the truth about us, into a unaverage, allergic to average way of thinking and a way of living. And lies, this fear-based way of thinking, the default mind, it imprisons the mind. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you kind of stagnant in life and convinced that there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can change. Your circumstances, these excuses, they're all going to keep you stuck, right? And so practical takeaways, I want to finalize on this, and I'm going to give it to you quick because in the scripture, since I brought in some heavy revies through the scripture, right? 2 Corinthians 10:5. It tells us exactly, it gives us another blueprint of what we should do within our mind, right? Because we are going to have those negative thoughts bombard us. We're going to have them at times come and sabotage and try to take away from the truth of who we are. And that's part of the design of who we are. The ego mind, we have free will. We can think on the negative and we can dwell on that and we can take that as truth, or we get into a designed way of thinking, right? We focus on the good, the love, right? The beautiful, the admirable, what Philippians 4:8 was telling us. And so 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, it reminds us that we can demolish every deceptive fantasy that opposes God and break through every arrogant attitude that is raised up in defiance of the true knowledge of God. Okay. And so as it continues, it says, we capture like prisoners of war every thought that insists that it bow in the obedience of the Anointed One. Real quick, I'm going to read that again because I can't have you miss that, right? Didn't know we're going to have some A to A church today, but we can demolish every deceptive fantasy that opposes God. Everything that comes in as lies, right? We can demolish those, right? Those deceptive fantasies that oppose the truth about who God is, that love, right? Another way of saying that, and break through every arrogant attitude that is raised up in defiance of the true knowledge of God. We capture it, okay? And I'm going to give you some takeaways with that, how we do that. Like prisoners of war, every thought and insist, right? We command, another way of saying that it bow in the obedience to the Anointed One, to your loving Creator, right? To the real truth of who you are and who you've been created to be. And so I had to just add to that your thoughts aren't facts, right? Sometimes just because you've had that thought into your mind, we need to actually challenge those. You don't have to agree with every thought. This is part of you being a creator and a commander in your life, and what you've been given the brilliance to be able to do is you challenge those thoughts. We have to capture those thoughts, and we have to actually upgrade and replace those when they're not serving us and they're not actually true to who we are created and designed to be. And so 3 steps and I'm done here, right? The first one would catch the thought, okay? This is the first step, catch the thought. Become aware of that, grow your awareness. It's like a mental muscle. I would say it's probably the most important mental muscle that you can grow, because out of that, right, that's part of growing your focus and your attention. So catch the thought. Is this true? Or is this just loud? Is this just something that echoes? Is this just something that, again, maybe I inherited or it's just kind of been automatic for me for so long in my life, right? Catch the thought. That's the first part of being aware. The second step to that is, capture the thought. So once you're aware of it, you caught it, you capture it, and you actually align it to seeing, is this actually true? Is this actually love? Is this a part of who I feel like I'm called to be, or even who I want to be? Right? Sometimes that lie that you're not enough, that you're not good enough, that you can't, that's not a part of who you're designed to be. That's not a part of the truth of you, right? So we have to capture the thought now, okay, that's not true. That's not the truth, right? And the third step would be replace the thought, right? This is part of you being a commander and the creator, right? You dictate and you decide by this attention and this deliberate, intentional, decision of, I want to upgrade and replace that now. And so you take that thought that's a lie, that no longer serves you, it's not a part of who you are, and you focus on even what Philippians 4:8 gave us. What is something that's actually true about you? What is something that is actually honorable? What is something that is actually beautiful about you? Just as quick and easy as it is to go with something that's, a distorted way of thinking about yourself, you can quickly find evidence in the truth about, I am still a loving person. I am a graceful person. I am a good person. I'm a good father. I'm a good mother. I'm a good friend. The list goes on. And so something that's lovely, like Philippians 4:8 tells us, something that's admirable, again, something that's beautiful, something that's kind about you, we have to replace it with the actual truth of you, okay? And then in Philippians 4:8, if you go to verse 9, in short, in summary, it says, put into practice what you have heard, what you have seen me do. And so we have to put that in practice. Put it in practice. As you replace the thought, you then go into put it into practice. Find the evidence, right? And your brain naturally will, when you upgrade and you put now your new actual thought there at the forefront, your brain will start to find evidence and reminders of that. Okay, so you don't obey your thoughts, right? You don't have to. You actually get to command them. That's our responsibility, and that's part of taking ownership. And so here's the last thing I'm going to end on, and I'm going to let you go right here, okay? And I want to just speak this over you, speak this to you, and just let it be a clear reminder of where you're at and who you actually are designed and created to be. So as a reminder, look, you're not stuck with your thoughts, okay? You're not a prisoner to your mind. You are the creator and you are the commander, okay? You are the creator, you are the commander of it. And so what you allow in your mind, it will show up in your life. And remember that what you train your focus, what you're training your focus to see, what you're training your focus to be, it will grow, okay? Where your focus goes, grows. Where your focus goes, that's what grows, okay? And so what you decide mentally, you will experience physically. And so choose your thoughts, train your mind, and live like you were created to be more because you were, okay? Live like you were created to be more because you were. And so that brings it to the end of this Tune In Tuesday. And so I just wanted to bring, again, another encouraging insight of truth, of love about who you are. You're not average. Again, you're not ordinary. As you continue to change your focus and put it on the things that matter most, you continue to walk in being extraordinary. So love you guys. I appreciate you. As always, it's me, your boy, Matt Lee. And I thank you for your time being here. I'll see you on the next one.